expose the criminals, expose the truth, tell them where the missing money went. That is what Mrs. Kamala Persad Bissessar is telling Ms. Beverly Khan tonight. So if you don't know, Kamala Persad Bissessar is the head of the official opposition, the United National Congress of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And Ms. Khan is the procurement regulator of the Office of Procurement Regulation in Trinidad and Tobago. So here's what's been happening. The OPR, as they're known for short, headed by Ms. Beverly Khan, has been busy trying to assist state bodies in the rollout of the new Procurement Act and Disposal of Public Property Act. It was proclaimed in parts, but now it's fully proclaimed. This has been years upon years upon years in the making, and the implementation is still ongoing, and the challenges arising from such implementation is also ongoing as well. But recently, Ms. Khan and the OPRTT had to lay their first report in Parliament, and it was done so. And there were some very interesting findings arising out of that report. So firstly, they had to go with an amended reporting period. Part of that is back to my previous point about having challenges implementing the act and having resourcing challenges, etc., not having reliable data. So instead of missing their obligation about laying that report, what Ms. Khan and the OPR has done is reduce the reporting period and reporting on usable data, things that were factual and they have substantial information with which to use. And they are continuing to work with these state bodies to ensure better record keeping is happening, and they're applying best practices and remaining in compliance with various procurement policies as well as the Act. Here's where it's getting interesting, and I would go so far as to say a little bit irresponsible, because as we know, a lot of people oftentimes, they speak before they think. By Mrs. Kamala Persad Bissessar telling Ms. Khan to expose the criminals, tell them where the missing money went, insinuates that she is able, by virtue of her findings, to determine where the billions of unaccounted dollars has gone. What Ms. Khan did say is that there was an alarmingly high number of non-competitive procurements, that is, those sole sources and single sources that were awarded without a competitive RFX process. She did not say in any way, shape, or form that that is where the missing money went. She kept those 2 points separate. We've got unreliable and missing data, and we've got a lot of non-competitives. She didn't say I found where the money went. She never said that. Even the auditor is having a difficult time trying to figure out where all that unaccounted money has gone. What we know to be true is that there is unaccounted money, but it is certainly not the responsibility of one person or another, and particularly not Ms. Khan as the procurement regulator, to expose the criminals, as Mrs. Persad Bissessar has said. Let's understand what her role is. This is someone who is the head of the body, who is supposed to be at arm's length to the government, who's responsible for doing things such as recommending best practices, ensuring, these state bodies are in compliance with their reporting obligations, ensuring they're running the procurement process properly, having good record keeping, presiding over any challenges to the procurement process, and particularly any recommendations for award. It is not Ms. Khan's responsibility as procurement regulator to go and expose criminals. she is not law enforcement, and neither is the OPR as a whole. What the Act does provide for is requirements on how to report and who to report to. Those who are, in fact, in law enforcement, to be able to look into these things further and open official investigations. It also provides for various penalties and criminal charges, etc. So to insinuate that Ms. Khan has information that could blow the lid off this whole thing, so to speak, is highly irresponsible. And I think that it feeds the fire. It adds fuel to the fire, and it lends to the frenzy, because public perception is going to, their radars are going to be twitching. Next thing you know, someone turns around and says that the procurement regulator is in cahoots with anybody. Who knows maybe where those unaccounted funds have gone. It was already a challenge for people to even welcome the OPR and understand what their role is, to give them a fair shot in this whole process. And can you imagine what they could potentially turn around and say now? That they're just as guilty as the rest of them? You need to know what you're saying before you start insinuating that somebody has information and that they should, within the purvey of their role, take next steps that would bring certain information to light. There's a process for that. There is due process. And she has also said, again, that there is unreliable and missing data. So how in the world could she turn around and even take next steps if she doesn't have all the information that she needs? Folks, procurement is here to uphold fundamental principles: fairness, openness, transparency, and value for money. We are highly, highly bound by ethics and doing what's right and doing what's fair. And to simply turn around and say something like it's so easy, that is that is placing a responsibility on our shoulders. And let's call a spade. Procurement already has enough to deal with. We don't need anyone else to turn around and think that we're not valuable to the process, that we can track things all the time and we know where everything is. No, that's part of our role, is to uncover the facts as well. We are also bound by things that you are as well. When we as procurement professionals turn around and uncover information, it doesn't even need to be criminal in nature. It may just simply be non-compliant. We are also subject to certain things, such as whistleblower protection. So to insinuate, again, I keep going back to this because I just find this so crazy to think that procurement and anyone who's at the head of procurement has any sort of responsibility or even power, for lack of a better term, to turn around and make something go another way, or to just release information that could change things so quickly, is really, again, irresponsible, and it is jumping the gun and causing things to take a turn. And we don't need any more issues on our plate, particularly going into this upcoming election. I think this is just another great example of pushing political agenda.